Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Siheyuan. Expose deaf old lady's fake 5 guarantees at the beginning. Traveling through the courtyard, Zhang An discovered that he had become a teenager, with both his parents dead and beasts eyeing his property, especially the deaf old lady who wanted to drive Zhang An out of the courtyard. Because Grandma Zhang An had a grudge against the deaf old lady in the past, she believed that the deaf old lady had moral problems and could not be a member of the 5 guarantees household. Fortunately, Zhang An awakened the fishing system of the heavens and reached the pinnacle of his life. Obtain information on deaf elderly women's fake 5 guarantees at the beginning. The deaf old lady wants to drive me out of the yard. I will directly report you as a fake household with 5 guarantees. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 1. Fishing in the Heavens, Sister.in. Law Lou Xiao'e. You are listening at novel.Audio. Hiss. My head hurts so much. Zhang An slowly opened his eyes, and his blurred vision gradually became clearer. His gaze casually swept over the unfamiliar environment in front of him. The air was filled with a stream of dirty dust, and the room was very messy, with everything in tattered condition. Zhang An's splitting headache was instantly thrown out of his mind stiffened, and his consciousness instantly concentrated. Have I traveled? Or did I drink too much last night and still dream now? In a panic, he instinctively reached out his hand, intending to clear himself up. Looking at those lush palms, Zhang An realized that he had turned into a 14-year-old boy. I must be dreaming. Zhang An dared not hesitate and fiercely pinched her face. Severe pain spreads from the cheeks to the whole body. The constantly surging memories in his mind swept through like a tide. In the 1960s, there were 4 or 9 cities, Nanluogu Lane, and Siheyuan. He was an orphan aged 14 or 15, whose parents had just died of a terminal illness. A few days later, his grandmother also passed away due to excessive sadness. The family upheaval dealt a great blow to him. In this era of waste waiting to be revived, an orphan without self-care ability, without the protection of his parents, will end up with only a dead end. And the courtyard where Zhang An lives is full of animals. Among them, the relationship between the deaf old lady and the Zhang family is the most tense. When Zhang An's grandmother was still there, she questioned her identity as a member of the 5 guarantees household. For this reason, the deaf old lady did not hesitate to throw tantrums. After her grandmother passed away, the deaf old lady was even more sarcastic, infuriating Zhang An. Not only the deaf old lady, but also these beasts in the courtyard have been thinking about the Zhang family for a long time. His parents are both senior workers in the steel rolling mill, and they have accumulated a lot of savings over the years. But due to a terminal illness, he passed away before he had a chance to enjoy his life. This money naturally became the fat in the eyes of the beasts. And Zhang An, the last relic of the Zhang family, naturally became the object of competition among the beasts. In the 1960s, forcibly robbing someone's property was a serious crime. Especially for families like the Zhang family, who are highly skilled workers. Once the matter is exposed, in severe cases, one may even be shot. So these beasts in the courtyard are all vying to adopt Zhang An. The original owner was just a teenager, scared by the actions of the beasts these days. Living in constant fear and unease, coupled with the passing of parents and grandmother. Unexpectedly, she just cried to death like this. After fusing all the memories, Zhang An gradually accepted the current situation. At the beginning of hell, as a minor, I was born in a wolf's den. What should I do? Zhang An frowned tightly, feeling sad about the fate of the original owner. At the same time, I am also worried about my tumultuous fate. Before he could complain a few words, the door of the house was suddenly pushed open. Zhang An was puzzled and instinctively looked towards the door. Outside the door, I saw a beautiful woman dressed in floral and blue clothes, holding a bowl of hot soup and looking towards here. Even without any makeup, it still cannot conceal her unique luxury. That is a grace that is not in line with this era. It is obvious that this beautiful woman's background is not simple. Xiao'an, you've woken up. You scared my sister.In.Law to death. The joyful words of the beautiful woman stunned Zhang An. I haven't had a chance to search for the identity of this beautiful woman from my memory yet. Next second. The beautiful woman hugged Zhang An tightly. The weather is not too cold, and the other person's clothing is still relatively thin. Zhang An, who has just traveled, is a bit breathless. And on his cheeks, he felt a few hot tears. Obviously, it was the beautiful woman in front of her who was tightly hugging her that shed the tears. Sister-in-law. Let go of me, I can't breathe anymore. Upon hearing the other party call themselves sister.In.Law, Zhang An called her that. But now he can't afford to indulge in the beauty of this moment. His head is still hurting at this moment, coupled with being held so tightly. Zhang Ansheng is afraid that he will faint again. Upon hearing this, the beautiful woman quickly released her excited hands, wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, and revealed a disheartened smile. Looking at her stunning face, Zhang An's memories couldn't help but surge. There was a faint gleam in his eyes. Soon, the identity of this beautiful woman became prominent in her mind. Is she Lou Xiao'e? Lou Xiao'e is one of the few good people in this courtyard house. Seeing her treat herself so sincerely, it can be considered as a bit of comfort for Zhang An, who has just traveled to this world. Lou Xiao'e sat in front of Zhang An, her gaze fixed on him. Seeing him remain silent, Lou Xiao'e thought it was the actions of the beasts these days that scared the child. So she gently caressed Zhang An's head, and her words became gentle and elegant. Don't be afraid, Xiao'an. With your sister.In.Law around, no one can bully you. If anyone dares to trouble you in the future, you can come and tell your sister.In.Law. Do you know? Zhang An nodded, and in an instant, he suddenly felt that being a teenager didn't seem to be bad either. You don't have to bear the heavy burden of your family, nor do you have to worry about the pressure of life. Not to mention having a beautiful sister.In.Law like Lou Xiao'e taking care of him. Xiao'an, this is the chicken soup I've stewed all night. You're weak now, drink some quickly. Lou Xiao'e picked up the bowl of hot soup and gently blew away the heat from the soup. I scooped a spoonful with a spoon and slowly fed it into Zhang An's mouth. I thought it was the beginning of hell, but now it seems to be pretty good. Zhang An opened his mouth and enjoyed Lou Xiao'e's feeding. After finishing a whole bowl of chicken soup, Zhang An sensible said to Lou Xiao'e, Sister-in-law, my body has recovered, you don't have to worry too much about me. Silly child, your sister.In.Law knows you are sensible, but you must not take care of everything on your own. Although your parents are not here, you still have your sister.In.Law, you know. Looking at Zhang An, who was half-aged in front of her, Lou Xiao'e felt heartbroken. Ripples rippled in her heart, wishing I could have such a sensible child as well. Lou Xiao'e and Zhang An exchanged a few words of warmth and comfort. Subsequently, at Zhang An's insistence, Lou Xiao'e accompanied him out of the room, ready to go sunbathing. But the two of them just left. At the entrance of Zhang's house, suddenly a figure of ill intentions flashed by. Following closely, a hoarse and unpleasant scream came. Zhang family's younger generation. Humph, they actually recovered from their illness. Why didn't your damn parents drag you to death together? You're so naive. At this moment, the deaf old lady was walking past Zhang's doorstep with a cane. She immediately began cursing when she saw Lou Xiao'e supporting Zhang An out of the door. Zhang An's eyes were cold as he looked at the dead old woman in front of him, constantly cursing and cursing. Memories of the past suddenly surged in his heart. The conflict between the Zhang family and the deaf old lady has to be traced back to the older generation. When Longguo was first established, the Zhang family and the deaf old lady were divided into the same courtyard. The ancestors of the Zhang family were all soldiers, and Zhang An was not a relative of the younger generation. He sacrificed himself in the war. In theory, the quota for these 5 insured households should have been filled by their Zhang family. But who could have imagined that a deaf old lady was killed halfway through? She claimed to be a martyr from her ancestors to her children and grandchildren. Due to its age, it is impossible to verify the relationship. After careful consideration by the organization, the quota for the 5 guarantee households was finally given to the deaf elderly lady. Zhang An's grandmother questioned this a lot back then. Over time, the conflict between the two families gradually accumulated. In the end, it reached a point where water and fire were incompatible. And Zhang An is also convinced that this selfish old lady's identity as a 5 guarantee household must have some tricks. But without evidence, we can't do anything with her. Later on, the Zhang family underwent an upheaval. The deaf old lady who has been fighting with the Zhang family for many years has achieved great success. During those days, I did a lot of things like falling into a well and throwing stones. The deaf old lady who doubts her identity and uses techniques. Zhang An naturally harbors deep hatred. With such a mouth that still owes so much at an old age, I don't know if you can accumulate some virtue. You can only rely on your status and sell your old age. Lou Xiao'e couldn't stand the deaf old lady's expression and directly retorted. Upon hearing the mockery, the deaf old lady just snorted coldly and immediately left. Sister-in-law, let's not get angry with such people. It's not worth it. This old thing can't live long. Seeing Lou Xiao'e defend herself against injustice, Zhang An was deeply moved in her heart. But as he was comforting Lou Xiao'e, a sudden and unexpected voice rang in his ear. Ding dong. Successfully connected. Congratulations to the host for successfully activating the sky fishing system. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 2. The identity of the deaf old lady is exposed, and I will report it directly. You are listening at novel.Audio. System. Zhang An blinked his eyes hard, and the sound in his ear just now made him feel a bit dazed. Before traveling, Zhang An had seen the system cheat in some novels. The so-called system, that's the standard configuration of the traveler. Eating melons on his own head, he still needs some time to digest. Before Zhang An could recover, the next second, a futuristic technology panel suddenly appeared before his eyes. May I ask if the host has started fishing in the heavens and received rewards? The text on the technology panel made Zhang An's heart skip a beat. Lou Xiao'e, who was standing beside her, was still complaining about the actions of Yi Zhonghai and the others, and did not notice Zhang An's shock. Good guy, so the sound just now was real. And it seems that Lou Xiao'e cannot see the existence of this technology panel. System, start fishing now. Zhang An silently recited in his heart. After a moment, the text on the technology panel changed again. Congratulations to the host for successfully fishing. Temperament +10. Congratulations to the host for receiving advanced rewards. 1 wash marrow fruit. 2 identity cards. Congratulations to the host for receiving special rewards. 8 section brocade technique. 8 extreme fist technique. 100 cubic space. Congratulations to the host for harvesting basic supplies. 30 pieces of great unity. 1 piece of 30-pound grain ticket. 1 piece of 20-pound meat ticket. 1 piece of 15-piece cloth ticket. Congratulations to the host for receiving the trick reward. 1 unlucky talisman. 1 slippery footwork talisman. 1 sleepwalking talisman. Congratulations to the host for receiving the hidden reward. A deaf old lady profile card. Fishing in the heavens has entered a cooling state, with a countdown of midnight, 23.99. Zhang An, who was fishing for the first time, was delighted to see the constantly flashing reward types on the technology panel. Although the specific purpose of these rewards is not yet known. But just looking at the dazzling rewards, an unprecedented sense of security swept through Zhang An's heart in an instant. With curiosity, Zhang An casually touched the marshmallow fruit stored in the system space. The next second, a bright blue box suddenly popped out and appeared above the marshmallow fruit. Marshmallow fruit. After consumption, it can strengthen the host's physical limits and maximize the host's physical fitness. Upon seeing the explanation about Zisuguo, Zhang An's pupils immediately dilated. With a strong curiosity, Zhang An's hand speed skyrocketed and he quickly looked through all the rewards in the system space. Identity card. After using it, the host will obtain a powerful hidden identity. The blue card represents the identity of a police officer, and the red card represents the identity of a great leader's nephew. 8-section brocade technique. Each time the host cultivates the 8-section brocade, they can increase their maximum strength limit, and the cultivation efficiency has been increased to the maximum value. 8 extremes fist technique. There are 8 levels in total. The current level of the host is 1 level, with a peak of 8 levels. It can unleash the power of the 9 dragons and 10 elephants with 1 punch. 100 cubic meters of space. Can be used to store system rewards for the host, can be expanded. After reading the explanation of all the rewards, Zhang An's spirit suddenly perked up. But what caught his attention the most was the information card about the deaf old lady. Based on the clues on the information card, Zhang An finally understood everything about that year after reading it. This deaf old lady was a kiln lady in the Hualu Alley of Coal City in her early years. After being noticed by a big boss, she transformed into his aunt. Later, the enemy occupied the coal city for self-protection. This old man, together with the deaf old lady, has done a lot of tricks to trap the soldiers of the Dragon Kingdom back then. After the victory of the war, the big boss was liquidated by the people of Coal City. The deaf old lady fled all the way to 49 cities in order to survive. She changed her appearance in the 49th city and told heroic lies to everyone she met. This traitor was ultimately whitewashed and turned into a 5 guarantees household. After understanding the truth, Zhang An couldn't help but sneer in his heart. The identity of this deaf old lady is indeed tricky. With this strong evidence in hand, tomorrow is the deadline for her deaf old lady's death. Xiao'an, are you okay? What's wrong with you? Ah, sister.in.law. I'm fine. Seeing that Zhang An remained silent for a long time, Lou Xiao'e thought that he had been cursed by the deaf old lady and was infuriated. However, upon hearing his explanation, Lou Xiao'e's heart immediately began to sympathize. It's difficult for you to bear so much pressure at such a young age. Your sister.in.law is useless and can't be by your side all the time. You must take care of yourself, okay? Sister-in-law, don't worry about me. Besides, in a few years, I will also be an adult. In my sister.in.law's heart, you will always be a child. The more Lou Xiao'e looked at Zhang An, the more she liked him in her eyes. But now, it's also time to part ways. She still needs to go back and prepare dinner. Lou Xiao'e reluctantly pulled Zhang An and casually said, "All right, Xiao'an. My sister.in.law will leave first. If anyone dares to trouble you, remember to tell her not to take care of everything yourself, you know. You still have me. Don't worry, sister.in.law, I will." Watching Lou Xiao'e leave, Zhang An quickly returned home. As soon as the door closed, he immediately opened the newly acquired system space. He took out the freshly harvested pulp washing fruit and took a bite. The taste is slightly sweet and slightly crispy. With 3 strokes and 5 divisions, all the marrow washing fruit went into Zhang An's stomach. The next second, a constant stream of warmth surged throughout his lower abdomen. Zhang An felt that his body was undergoing drastic changes at an astonishing speed. Sweating profusely soaked his clothes. As the warmth came to an end, this change stopped. Zhang An lay on the Kong, feeling his body filled with strength. With just one punch, not to mention killing a tiger, it seems more than enough to knock over an adult. Wiping away the hot sweat from my forehead, I just sat up. His gaze shifted to the mirror on the table. Zhang An in the mirror has completely lost his sickly appearance just now. Although he is only a teenager of 14 or 15 years old, in the mirror, he shows a maturity that surpasses his peers, with a hint of depth and stability. And between his eyebrows, he seemed to be a bit handsome. Zhang Anxin was overjoyed by the changes in her body. This pulp washing is really amazing. I didn't expect the effect to be so immediate. But the highlight is still ahead. Zhang An held the information card of the deaf old lady in his hand and decided not to do anything. Write a report letter directly and take care of this traitor, the deaf old lady, who is impersonating the 5 guarantees household. With 3 strokes and 5 divisions, a concise yet detailed report letter leapt onto the paper. Before going out to deliver the report letter, Zhang An found a small box hidden under the Kong. What is stored here is all the property of their Zhang family. Opening the box, it was filled with fluffy banknotes. These money were all accumulated bit by his parents. After counting the amount, the total is about 3,000 yuan. Zhang An put this money into the system space. He understood that these beasts in the courtyard had set their sights on him. He was worried that someone might come and kill him, so he came knocking on the door and entered the room. If something really happens then, it will be troublesome. After finishing all this work, Zhang An held the letter in his hand and immediately went out. He plans to directly send this report letter to the police station, saving a lot of nights and dreams. Zhang An just pushed open the door with the letter. In the courtyard, a beautiful scenery line first occupied his view. At the entrance of a side room on the east side of the courtyard, a beautiful woman with a ponytail tied and dressed in plain cloth was squatting there rubbing her clothes. She has no makeup on her face, but her appearance is incredibly exquisite. Just by looking at her appearance, born in this courtyard, there really feels like a 6-palace pink without color. Zhang An stared at her in a daze, and the memories in his mind suddenly surged back. Is she Qinhuai Ru? Zhang An instinctively murmured a sentence. But soon, his brow furrowed slightly. It seems that due to his travels, Jia Dongxiu, who should have turned into a black and white photo hanging at home, did not die. The accident at the steel rolling mill only made him paralyzed. He lies at home every day shouting and cursing incessantly, all kinds of dirty and tiring work being rushed to be done by Qinhuai Ru. Although Qinhuai Ru did not become a widow, what is the difference between her and a widow now? Looking at Qinhuai Ru's hard-working appearance, Zhang An suddenly felt that she didn't seem as annoying as she had imagined. But as a young man who knows right from wrong, he is also familiar with the principle of not looking at the surface when looking at people. As for what Qinhuai Ru really is like, we still need to observe and observe again. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 3. The young woman Qinhuai Ru is naturally charming. You are listening at novel full.audio. A little red dye stains the blue sky, and a 3-inch golden lotus is pitiful. Zhang An gazed at Qinhuai Ru, a beautiful widow, with deep emotions in his heart. It has to be said that there is such a white lotus rooted in the mud living in the courtyard. Born with a charming bone, looking back and smiling gives off a fox-like charm. He understood why all the men in the drama were envious of Qinhuai Ru. Especially the silly guy, no wonder he was so mesmerized. Voluntarily hang oneself from a tree like Qin Huairu. If it weren't for Zhang An's good composure, someone else would probably have been blindfolded by Qinhuai Ru. Standing at the door for a long time, washing clothes, Qinhuai Ru finally noticed the gaze cast not far away. She put down her clothes and looked up straight towards Zhang An's side to see. Seeing Zhang An, who had been bedridden at home for a long time, unexpectedly leave, a thought-provoking smile immediately appeared on her face. Xiao'an, have you recovered from your illness? Sister-in-law has been worried about you these days. Qin Huairu stood up, patted the soap bubbles on her hands, and smiled, showing concern to Zhang An. Watching Qin Huairu's hard-to-conceal hospitality, Zhang An's perception of her suddenly changed. He could feel that Qin Huairu's concern was not genuine. It's like a calculation, like a behavior done for profit. Don't worry, sister.in.law. I just recovered from my illness and had something else to do, so I'll leave first. Zhang An perfunctorily said. Without looking back, he quickly left the courtyard under the gaze of Qin Huairu. Gazing at Zhang An's back, Qin Huairu showed a cunning smile. Qin Huairu, who were you talking to just now? Are you still worried? Who are you worried about? With a creak, an old woman in the side room on the east side of the courtyard, who looked even more bulky than a pregnant woman in her 60s, walked out cursing. This person is Jia Zhang, a representative figure among the animals in the courtyard. This Jia Zhang is Qin Huairu's mother.in.law and Jia Dongshu's biological mother. I usually like to take advantage of others, and I am meticulous and always do some shady things. And she had a small belly and chicken intestines. Not long after Jia Dongshu was paralyzed, her gaze fixed on Qin Huairu. Now, Jia Dongshu has become a useless person. Beside her was Qin Huairu, a seductive fox. Jia Zhang has always been worried that Qin Huairu will be dishonest and one day he will be taken away by someone. Put a sky-high hat on their Jia family. So these days, Jia Zhang has been hiding in the dark, quietly staring at Qin Huairu. I'm afraid she might do something to ruin our family. Grandma, I was just talking to that child from the Zhang family. Zhang's child, Zhang An. Has he woken up? Just now, Jia Zhang, who was still skeptical, immediately became energized upon hearing Qin Huairu's words. Jia and Zhang were very concerned about the changes in the Zhang family. And the same goes for the beasts in the courtyard. Zhang An is now a piece of fat. Due to the passing of both parents, anyone who can fight for his foster care rights is basically equivalent to receiving all the money from the Zhang family. So when Jia Zhang heard Qin Huairu's explanation, she was very satisfied. She gave Qin Huairu a thumbs up and boasted loudly, "Well done. It seems that after Dong Su had an accident, you have become more sensible and know how to care for the family. It's time to talk more to the Zhang family's children. Strive to establish a good relationship with him and foster him to our family. In this way, Zhang An's godparents' money will all belong to us, won't it?" With Jia Zhang's cunning calculation, Qin Huairu also revealed her true face. Grandma, don't worry, I've been keeping an eye on the Zhang family these days. Apart from Lou Xiao'e, no one cares about Zhang An's life or death in the yard. We just need to find a way to squeeze out Lou Xiao'e, and once we get the money, our family's life will be better, won't we? You're right. We need to hurry up. Jia Zhang followed Qin Huairu's plan. But as they spoke, a voice suddenly caught their attention. Grandma, why should we treat Zhang An so well? Anyway, he's just a sick seedling. I'll beat him up and see if he's still old and honest. If we don't pay, I'll kill him. Bastard. Upon hearing the stick meme, Jia Zhang couldn't help but feel angry. She slapped Bang Ji's face. Then, with a pair of red eyes, he whispered at him, "Stupid. If you beat Zhang An up, we won't get a penny of his family's money. So many people in the yard have been watching him for a long time. If you beat him up now, wouldn't you just give them a confession? They say we mistreated Zhang An, and if we do this, how can we call Zhang An foster in our house?" Bang Ji had red eyes and couldn't listen to Jia Zhang's words at all. However, under the pressure of Jia Zhang's words, Bang Ji could only nod. Qin Huairu hugged the stick and touched his face with heartache. Grandma, Bang Ji is still a child, how can he understand these truths? Anyway, until we have the right to foster care, we must treat that Zhang An as if he were our ancestor. Did you hear that? Stupid. Jia Zhang looked seriously at Bang Ji. This is the first time that I have seen Jia Zhang's serious attitude. Without saying anything else, he nodded firmly and said, I know. Seeing the stick stem bowing her head, Jia Zhang's cold face just now instantly became calm. She approached Kanji and smiled as she bent down to touch his face. Grandma, this is also for the good of our family. Let Grandma take a look. Did you hurt yourself just now? As soon as Jia Zhang reached out, he was pushed away by the stick. The slap just now scared him quite a bit. Bang Gung tightly hid in Qin Huairu's arms, unwilling to let go. Seeing his obedient grandson resist so much, Jia Zhang's good temper instantly disappeared. The pent-up fire in her heart had nowhere to be released, and she could only sprinkle it on silly Zhu. Since Jia Dongxiu had an accident, the family's source of income has also been cut off. In order to have a bite to eat, Jia Zhang asked Qinhuai Ru to play dumb tricks. He is required to bring back the leftover food and vegetables from the steel rolling mill to the Jia family every day. And now, it's almost time for silly Zhu to finish work. I've been waiting for so long, but I haven't even seen a single person. Jia Zhang crossed her waist and frowned slightly, shouting, it's already so late, why hasn't silly Zhu brought the lunch box over yet? Meanwhile, on the other side. After sending the report letter to the police station, Zhang An didn't rush home. Next to the police station is the Wangfujing department store. This is the only large department store in 49 cities. The rare items that can be bought these days can only be bought here. Thinking that since I have all come out and the system just rewarded me with a lot of money, why not buy some things and bring them back? However, Zhang An did not expect that the vendors in this department store would not sell anything to him at all. He has been wandering around 2 or 3 shops. But the vendors here have surprisingly consistent attitudes towards him. What's the situation? Are these people not selling things to me because I'm not very old? Zhang An has some feelings about his current identity as an 8-year-old child. At the age of 14 or 15, I don't seem to be as good as I imagined, even if I'm not up or down. Speaking, Zhang An turned around and arrived at the 4th shop. But this time, he changed his strategy. The owner of the shop was a middle-aged woman. When Zhang An came alone, she smiled and took the initiative to say, little brother, where are your adults? Hello auntie, my parents are sick and they asked me to help buy some things. Is that okay? Zhang An put on a well-behaved and sensible expression. The boss saw that Zhang An was young and so sensible, and his attitude immediately became more enthusiastic. What a sensible child. Choose and look at whatever you want. Auntie's things are all sold to you at the purchase price. Then I'll thank Auntie first. Zhang Anchong smiled at the boss. The feeling of age in my heart just now instantly dissipated. It seems better to be a teenager. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Young Lady Yuli, Deaf Old Lady is Malicious. You are listening at novel.Audio. After some selection, Zhang An bought 4 sets of bed sheets and bedding in one breath. After handing over the money and cloth tickets to the boss, Zhang An planned to leave directly with his belongings. Looking at his thin stature, he had to carry so many things alone. The boss couldn't help but worry that Zhang An wouldn't be able to hold it. So I wanted to help him and send the things back together. Little brother, can you afford to carry so many things alone? How about Auntie help you take them back? No need, Auntie. Don't look at me as thin, I have a lot of strength. Zhang Anchong smiled at the boss. He reached out his hand and picked up the 4 bedding beds like a chicken. Seeing Zhang An displaying such great strength, the boss was suddenly shocked. At around 14 or 15 years old, how could you have such great strength? It's not as easy for an adult to pick it up, right? Zhang An carried the bedding and then walked out of the department store. But he wasn't in a hurry to go back. Dinner time is approaching, and he plans to take a trip to the nearby market to buy some ingredients and go back. Zhang An still used the same routine as in the department store just now. Fake claiming to be helping the family buy things. Soon, he had several large bags on his hand. The passers-by who came and went saw Zhang An's small stature carrying so many things. I couldn't help but feel extremely shocked. What surprised them even more was that the things Zhang An held in his hand were not cheap. He bought so many good things in one go, and he didn't know who the black sheep of his family were. He didn't know how to cherish money. Amidst the redness and chatter of passers-by, Zhang An slowly and leisurely returned to the courtyard. As soon as Zhang An arrived at the entrance of the courtyard, he saw not far away, Bang Geng leading Xiao Dang and Hua running out of the house. I don't know what kind of demon these three of them are going to be. Zhang An has a bad impression of the stick meme, a quadrangle thief. When he passed by, Kanji deliberately made a funny face at him. Zhang An didn't pay much attention, but the next second, he didn't pay attention and crashed straight into a figure. Due to taking Shishuigua, his physical fitness is beyond average. But that figure is miserable. I was hit by Zhang An and hit the ground directly. Ouch. With a coquettish expression, Zhang An looked towards the sound. In the yard, I saw a young woman with red lips and white teeth sitting on the ground. She rubbed her waist with one hand and supported the ground with the other. She has a delicate appearance and a slightly furrowed expression. It looks like that hit her quite hard just now. Memories surged in Zhang An's mind, and the identity of the person in front of him instantly jumped into his heart. It was Yuli who was hit, and also one of his sister.In.Law. Zhang An approached Yuli and reached out with a small hand. Sister-in-law, it's all my fault for not paying attention to the road. Are you okay? Yuli looked up and saw that the person who had just bumped into her was actually Zhang An. Her expression immediately eased. Holding Zhang An's hand, Yuli slowly stood up. She patted the dust off her body and smiled at Zhang An, asking, Xiao'an, how are you doing? Didn't sister.In.Law hurt you just now? Although she didn't pay attention when walking, Yuli took the blame on herself. Upon hearing this concern, Zhang An's impression of Yuli immediately improved significantly. In memory, Yuli's persona is somewhat similar to Lou Xiao'e's. Their figures are indescribable, both protruding and curvaceous. And their faces also had a hint of charm. And both of them have very kind hearts. It's just that the person being married is not very suitable. Lou Xiao'e's husband, Su Damao, is a eunuch. And Yuli's husband Yan Jicheng is also in a similar situation. If Yan Jicheng were not too awesome, Yuli's little face would not be red every day. He looks like he hasn't eaten enough all day. It's not that Li doesn't have such a good family background as Lou Xiao'e. Moreover, the Yan family's search and detention were not as comfortable as Lou Xiao'e's. Although Lou Xiao'e is troubled by her child's affairs, eating is still not a problem. Zhang An felt some sympathy for Li's plight. So my attitude towards you, Li, is very kind. Sister-in-law, I'm fine, but it's you. Did you hurt from the collision just now? Xiao'an, sister.In.Law is an adult. You are still young, what can happen if you bump into her? Yuli smiled and felt very relieved to see Zhang An so sensible. But sister.In.Law, are you in such a hurry to leave? Is there something urgent? Oh, I'm going out to buy something. As Yuli spoke, the blush on her pretty face added a touch. Zhang An looked strange and couldn't help but mutter in his heart. But before he could think more, Yuli's words interrupted his suspicion. Xiao'an, by the way, why did you buy so many things? Can you carry so many things alone? Do you need your sister.In.Law to help you? No need. Sister-in-law, I can hold it, I have a lot of strength. But why are you buying so many bedding? Are you expecting guests at home? Yuli looked at these brand new bedding and felt a bit confused. In this era, resources are scarce. A family of 3 can prepare up to 2 beds of bedding. But now that Zhang An has become an orphan, seeing him buy so much at once, Yuli couldn't help but feel a little curious. No, I'm planning to exchange the old things at home. These bedding will be kept for seasonal changes. Xiao'an, you're not going to be a scam, are you? How could anyone buy so many bedding at once? Hear Yuli's worries. Upon hearing this, Zhang An immediately explained to her. Seeing him so persistent, Yuli didn't ask any more questions. After saying goodbye, Yuli hurriedly left the yard. As soon as Yuli left, Zhang An rushed to her own house with something in her arms. It's getting dark, and all the animals in the courtyard have almost returned. Seeing Zhang An carrying big and small bags of things, preparing to go home. These beasts suddenly couldn't sit still. Isn't Zhang An still sickly yesterday? Why do you have the strength to carry so many things back now? And it seems like the things he's holding are not cheap, right? He's just not good at living. Buying so many things at once, his family must still be hiding a lot of money. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to squander it like this, right? The disputes among the beasts are endless. In the courtyard, the gods who heard the noise also arrived upon hearing the news. The first one to bear the brunt is the abacus expert Yan Fugue in this courtyard house. He shook the fan with one hand and helped his glasses with the other. That pair of glasses was like a detector, quickly scanning Zhang An's body and immediately calculating the price of these things in his mind. Soon, Yan Fugue showed a thought-provoking expression. Looking at Zhang An's back, Yan Fugue murmured arrogantly, "Dare to waste money like this. The Zhang family and his wife must have left several hundred yuan for this kid, right? Even a few thousand yuan might be worth it. We need to let Yuli take care of him more. It's a big bargain for nothing, not for nothing." Yan Fugue is speaking. The Bangs living next door to his house were also very red-eyed at the moment. "Guangfu, Guangtian, come out quickly." Lou Xiao'e turned around and shouted out his 2 sons. These 2 filial sons rushed over immediately upon hearing this. "Dad, are you looking for us?" Lou Xiao'e looked at the 2 ignorant adults and demanded as if giving orders, "In the future, I will have more contact with Zhang An. You 2 can go out and play and bring him to me. Do you know?" Lou Xiao'e is calculating the property of Zhang An's family, hoping to use the relationship between his 2 sons to get close to Zhang An. After listening, Lu Guangfu and Lu Guangtian nodded in confusion. "Xiao'an, is it heavy or not? Come on, Grandpa E will help you pick it up." Lou Xiao'e is training his son here. On the other end, Yi Zhonghai, who was quick-witted, took the lead. He approached Zhang An directly and spoke hypocritically to him. But Zhang An didn't want to talk to him at all, so he turned his head and left directly. Seeing Zhang An's lack of birds and ease of being in the middle of the sea, he sneered in his bangs. "What's the use of being quick with your hands and feet? Didn't you just throw yourself away?" After seeing the good goods in Zhang An's hands, Jia Zhang's eyes immediately became envious. "Qin Huairu, do you see that?" As soon as the Zhang family boy recovered, he was in a hurry to become a spendthrift. "We need to quickly establish a good relationship, as his family has designated a lot of money. We can't let this duck fly." Inside, Qin Huairu nodded at Jia and Zhang with a cunning expression on her face and said, "We also need to let Bang Ji and Zhang An have more contact. They are both peers, it will be easier to establish a relationship. As long as we can successfully foster Zhang into our home, let's wait and eat delicious food and drink spicy food from now on." Jia Zhang's eyes were full of calculations. And the other people in this courtyard also had ideas about Zhang An. Only the deaf old lady looked at Zhang An with disgust on her face and cursed, "This little beast, if I don't drive him out of the courtyard, I always feel uneasy. I need Zhonghai to calculate. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Superior Lou Xiao'e, Charming Qinhuai Ru. You are listening at novel full.audio. Carrying large and small bags of things, Zhang An leisurely returned home. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and felt that he had gained a lot today. Not only did I send out the letter reporting the deaf old lady, but I also brought back so many things. Revenge against the deaf old lady is just the beginning. And his days ahead will surely be completely new. Zhang An is preparing to change and wash all the things at home. Keep what can be used, and throw away what cannot be used. Without much thought, Zhang An immediately began to organize. But just as he was full of energy and preparing to clean up, the door was suddenly pushed open. Xiao'an, sister.In.Law has prepared dinner, are you hungry? Outside the door, I didn't see Lou Xiao'e, so I heard her voice first. As soon as she finished speaking, Lou Xiao'e, who had walked into Zhang An's house, suddenly stopped her voice. She looked at Zhang An with some disbelief and then asked, Xiao'an, why did you buy so many things? Did you bring them all back alone? Upon hearing Lou Xiao'e's concern, Zhang An nodded with a smile and said, Sister-in-law, I plan to renew my home. Now that I'm also sick, it's time to give myself a fresh start. Xiao'an, it's not that my sister.In.Law said about you. Although it's good for you to have such thoughts, money needs to be spent more, you know. You're still young now, and there will be more places to spend money in the future. Lou Xiao'e sighed and walked forward with concern to touch Zhang An's head. As a capitalist's daughter, she could tell at a glance that the things Zhang An bought today were not cheap. I was afraid that Zhang An would be tricked by unscrupulous vendors, so I taught him. Zhang An nodded and responded with a smile, don't worry, sister.In.Law. I won't spend money recklessly in the future. That's good, are you hungry? If you're hungry, go eat first, and my sister.In.Law will help you tidy up. Sister-in-law, I'm not hungry. Let's clean up together. Seeing Zhang An so sensible, Lou Xiao'e smiled. Subsequently, the two immediately took action and began a thorough cleaning. Lou Xiao'e held a broom and meticulously swept every corner of the room. It has to be said that although she is a wealthy lady, she is still very hardworking in her hands and feet. And that plump figure, just by looking at it, you can tell that it is definitely a top-notch cannon stand. Zhang An looked at Lou Xiao'e with some emotion. Unfortunately, Su Damao is a waste, just like Yan Jicheng. These two guys may not have great abilities, but their fate is really good. Both of them have married a good wife, but they have suffered a lot from Lou Xiao'e and Yu Li. Zhang An was holding the blanket while silently pondering in his heart. And Lou Xiao'e, who had just finished sweeping the floor, also noticed Zhang An, who was tidying up the blanket. He is small in stature, and it's a bit difficult to pack the cotton lining into the duvet cover alone. But she is still busy cleaning at the moment and doesn't have time to go up and help. And Lou Xiao'e is not very skilled either. If she were to handle it, she might not be as good as Zhang An. But soon, a candidate for cleaning up appeared in Lou Xiao'e's heart. She put down the broom in her hand and walked up to Zhang An with a smile. Xiao'an, it's difficult to tidy up such a big blanket alone, isn't it? It's a bit difficult, sister.In.Law. Can you help me? My sister.In.Law is not very good at tidying up this, but you can go find Qin Huairu to help. She is hardworking and definitely skilled at tidying up the quilt. Upon hearing Lou Xiao'e's recommendation, Zhang An's eyes couldn't help but turn. To be honest, his perception of Qinhuai Ru is not good. There is no free lunch in the world, and if Qinhuai Ru wants to help, she will definitely demand benefits. However, Zhang An also understands that he is now a coveted treasure in a courtyard house. A shrewd woman like Qinhuai Ru must also be plotting against him. Maybe I can really get some advantage from her. After Zhang An agreed to Lou Xiao'e, he carried the quilt out of the door. At this moment, Qinhuai Ru is sitting at her doorstep selecting dishes. Looking at that graceful appearance, Zhang An once again sighed in his heart, truly worthy of being the camellia of a courtyard house. Without much thought, Zhang An quickly came to Qinhuai Ru with a blanket in his arms. Coincidentally, Qinhuai Ru also noticed Zhang An's movements. Seeing him walking over with a brand new blanket in his arms, she thought Zhang An was planning to give her the new blanket. Qinhuai Ru, who thought she could take advantage of it, immediately stood up and wiped the water droplets on her hands. Xiao'an, how do you know that my sister.In.Law's house is missing a thick bed and blanket? Look at this cotton, it's really thick. It must be warm to cover it at night, she said casually with a smile at Zhang An. Upon hearing Qinhuai Ru's misunderstanding, Zhang An quickly explained, sister-in-law, you misunderstood. I wanted to get rid of you helping me tidy up this bed and bedding. I can't do it alone. As soon as the words fell, Qinhuai Ru's smiling face froze. Daring Zhang An, this is to make herself a laborer, isn't it, to give gifts? Qinhuai Ru didn't want to work for nothing, but she was also envious of Zhang An's blanket. So he hinted around the bend and said, Xiao'an, sister.In.Law can help you, but I'm asking you, what about your old bedding? Upon hearing this obvious suggestion, Zhang An suddenly smiled and said, sister-in-law, I don't plan on taking my old bedding anymore. If you don't mind, just take it. Xiao'an is so sensible. That's it. The calculation was successful, and Qinhuai Ru immediately reached out to take the blanket from Zhang An's hand, ready to help him tidy it up. But just then, a very attentive voice suddenly sounded not far away. Qin Jie, are you busy? As soon as these words were spoken, Zhang An and Qinhuai Ru's eyes immediately converged towards the direction of the voice. In front of me, I saw an ugly man with a donkey face and mung bean-sized eyes, his face full of smiles. He was holding a net pocket in his hand, which contained 3 lunch boxes. Just by looking at his attentive expression, one can tell that this person must have some ulterior motives. Listening to his tone, although he appears respectful on the surface, there must be some irrelevant thoughts behind his back. Oh, silly pillar. What about bringing so many lunch boxes today? Qinhuai Ru curved her mouth and narrowed her eyes into 2 narrow willow leaves. The flamboyant appearance made Silly Zhu's heart prick as he watched. His eyes were wide open, and he quickly nodded and bowed, saying, the food at the steel rolling mill is great today. I specially brought back 2 spoonfuls of green pepper stir-fried meat. Qin Jie has a good appetite tonight. But who is this kid? Silly Zhu chatted with Qinhuai Ru while glancing at Zhang An in surprise. Due to the washing of the pulp fruit, Zhang An's appearance has become much more handsome. The whole person's temperament underwent a drastic change, sweeping away the previously sickly appearance. In addition, Silly Zhu didn't like to talk to Zhang An, so he didn't recognize him for a while. Looking at Silly Zhu's silly appearance, he couldn't even recognize a person. So Qinhuai Ru immediately explained with a smile, silly pillar, this is Xiao'an. The children of the Zhang family. Oh. It's Zhang An, aren't you sick? What's wrong? Now that your body is well taken care of, you have also become a dog-like person. Silly Zhu's words are hard to listen to, after all, he is the god of war in the courtyard, fearless of heaven and earth. Not to mention that Zhang An is still an orphan without a father or mother. So Silly Zhu spoke more openly. Where does Zhang An care so much? A guy like Silly Zhu, who is full of stinky feces and ignorant, must be taught a lesson. With a thought, Zhang An immediately opened the system repository and directly took out a foot slide. Lock the target as a silly pillar and silently recite the spell on the talisman. Soon, a wisp of black smoke rushed into Silly Zhu's body. At this moment, Silly Zhu was still showing off his masculine demeanor in front of Qinhuai Ru. I didn't notice my own changes. Qin Jie, let me tell you, wanting to eat meat is not a matter of minutes for me, silly pillar. If you eat well today, I will bring it to you tomorrow. Silly Zhu, thank you first, sister. What's going on here? Dongshu is my brother. He's in trouble now, can I leave your family alone? Feel free to come to me if you have any trouble. Qin Jie, please don't stand out. Silly Zhu handed the lunchbox in his hand to Qin Huairu as he spoke. At this moment, he felt incredibly cool. Can you show off well in front of the goddess, and then you will be easily caught. After pretending to be tough, Silly Zhu plans to have a handsome ending. After greeting Qin Huairu twice, he immediately turned around, intending to finish off with his back. Just as Zhu took a step, the next second, his feet suddenly applied oil. The whole figure seemed uncontrollable, performing a split in front of Qin Huairu and Zhang An. With a click sound, Silly Zhu's linen pants also pulled out a huge hole. The red cloth pants inside were instantly exposed. Seeing this scene, Qinhuai Ru smiled with trembling branches. Silly Zhu, is this your zodiac year? Are you dressed so joyfully? Looking at Qinhuai Ru's face full of spring breeze, Zhang An couldn't help but be a bit stunned. This Qinhuai Ru, no wonder the silly pillar is so mesmerized. Every frown and smile captures the soul. What a fox charmer. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Qinhuai Ru is too tempting, and Zhang An decides to join. You are listening at novel.Audio. As she was mocking the silly pillar, Qinhuai Ru accidentally caught a glimpse of Zhang An's gaze. Her seductive eyes blinked slightly, and she thought to herself that Zhang An was also a teenager. Seeing this graceful picture of myself, how can I remain calm? So he showed his charm without any hesitation in front of him. Seeing the appearance of Qinhuai Ru's spring has arrived, Zhang An quickly put away his gaze. I have to admit that this Qinhuai Ru Go man's ability is indeed top-notch. But after all, he is still a minor. Zhang An couldn't help but resist seeing that Qinhuai Ru had a plan on his head. Xiao'an, do you want to stay with your sister.In.Law so that she can take care of you in the future? My family has many children, so you can still have a companion with Bang Ji, right? Qinhuai Ru smiled and urged Zhang An. Where can Zhang An put on a condom? Are you the one who cares about me? If you want my family's money, just say it. Zhang An shook his head and politely refused, no, sister.In.Law, I'll just live on my own. I'm not young anymore. Even if you're an adult, what if you still need me to help you? Qinhuai Ru teased Zhang An and then pulled him towards the house. Alright, my sister.In.Law has finished helping you with your work, and it's perfect to tidy up your old bedding at home. Zhang An nodded, he couldn't use those old things anyway. Even if it's cheaper, Qinhuai Ru doesn't feel sorry. Meanwhile, in the Jia family's house. Jia Zhang stood at the window, stealing a glance at Qinhuai Ru and Zhang An outside. Her face looked as if she had succeeded in her calculations. The oily old face trembled with a smile. This Qinhuai Ru is really capable. Zhang An happens to be at a naive age and can't even walk at the sight of her. It's not a waste of my good guidance to her in my daily life. Jia Zhang praised Qinhuai Ru's superb craftsmanship while also putting gold on her face. Jia Dongshu, who was lying on the Kong as a useless person, was also very happy to see this. Mom, if Qinhuai Ru could persuade Zhang An to come and take care of us obediently, the days after that would be much more comfortable. Isn't that right? Besides everything else, our family has been eating and drinking spicy food for several years. The Zhang family and his wife used to be senior workers, and they must have saved a lot of money in these years. But they have a chance to make money or spend money. Feng Shui takes turns, and it's time for our family to enjoy happiness. Jia Zhang and Jia Dongshu are calculating Zhang An's foster care plan. In no time, Qin Huairu, who had tidied up Zhang An's blanket, also returned. As soon as they returned home, Jia Zhang and Jia Dongxiu noticed the old cloth and bedding she was holding in her hand. "Oh, in just a few minutes, you've brought back such a thick blanket with you." Jia Zhangshi walked forward with a face full of joy, reaching out to touch the old bed and bedding. Although it was used by Zhang An, the cotton wool inside the bedding is solid. Their house happens to be short of a thicker bedding. With just a little effort, Jia Zhang was overjoyed to find a big bargain. Jia Dongxiu was also overjoyed at this moment, and he sneered, "Zhang An is really a spendthrift. He's so anxious to waste money that he's going to lose all his wealth." "That's right, I think we should help him manage the money." Jia Zhang echoed a sentence. On the faces of this beast mother and son, there seemed to be a successful scheme. "Qin Huairu, didn't that kid see anything, did he? You have to take care of yourself these days. Don't wait for him to come to our house for foster care. The Zhang family's money has been squandered by him." Although Jia Dongxiu couldn't move, he still didn't forget to command one or two. Upon hearing his commands, Qin Huairu also laughed and said, "Don't worry, his attitude towards me is good. I've been paying more attention these days. I think that kid will be willing to move into our house sooner or later. When he comes to our house, not only does Zhang's wealth belong to us, but also his large box house has become something in our pockets. This is a huge bargain. If we can calculate it, we can directly become a wealthy family in the yard." Jia Zhang is very beautiful in her heart, and she hopes to have Zhang An take care of her tonight. However, Jia Dongxiu is more realistic. He is now a useless person, with all his thoughts on short-term gains. He understood that their plan would only be considered successful when Zhang An truly came to the Jia family. At present, there are many people in the courtyard who are eyeing Zhang An. The winner of the battle is really uncertain in the end. So Jia Dongxiu repeatedly instructed Qin Huairu. "Take these old cloths and make some clothes for Bang Gung. He's growing up now and changes clothes frequently. Pack up the old bedding and use it tonight. The rest, you can tidy up and use the scraps yourself. We can't waste it like Zhang An, that black sheep." Seeing Jia Dongxiu so shrewd and capable of living, Jia Zhang was very satisfied. She hummed a tune, feeling proud in her heart. "When Zhang An takes care of us, our family will soar to success." Meanwhile, Zhang An's family. After helping him tidy up the household chores, Lou Xiao'e also prepared dinner for him. Today's dinner is quite sumptuous. 2 plates of vegetables and 2 mantou. In this era, it can already be called a banquet level. "Xiao'an, dinner is ready, hurry up and eat more." Lou Xiao'e picked up a mantou and handed it to him. But as a traveler, how could Zhang An get used to this? After receiving the mantou, Zhang An didn't hurry to cook. But instead, he turned around and took out a canned meat from his bag. He bought it from the department store this afternoon. Lou Xiao'e was surprised when she saw this canned meat. "Xiao'an, did you buy this in the afternoon? It's too extravagant, isn't it? Didn't my sister.In.Law tell you to spend more money?" Lou Xiao'e frowned slightly, very worried about Zhang An's financial problems. Although Zhang An is sensible, in Lou Xiao'e's eyes, he is still a child. At the speed of his spending, he is likely to lose out on his family every year. Zhang An was calm about Lou Xiao'e's concerns. He has the blessing of a fishing system, and the speed of spending money is not as fast as harvesting rewards. However, it was not easy to tell Lou Xiao'e clearly, so Zhang An found an excuse. "Sister-in-law, the uncle who sells canned goods in the department store is my dad's former friend. He loved me and gave me a little gift. So it's like this, sister.In.Law misunderstood you just now." Lou Xiao'e felt some self-blame. Looking at her appearance, Zhang Anchang smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, let's eat quickly." Lou Xiao'e nodded and soon started cooking with Zhang An. Two people eat one mouthful of mantu and one mouthful of meat. After dinner, Zhang An lay on the chair contemplating the future. Since I have traveled to this world, I must strive for a better life. However, there was one thing that caused him a headache. He has already graduated from junior high school. Should I continue my studies in the future or take over my parents' positions and become a worker in a steel rolling mill? This makes Zhang An somewhat indecisive. In his past life, he was a top student who graduated from a prestigious school. With his abilities, it's easy to get into college in this era. But as a newcomer to this era of waiting for improvement, Zhang An regained the right to choose his life. He didn't want his life to sink into exams like in the past. Just as Zhang An was pondering deeply in his heart, Lou Xiao'e's words suddenly stopped him. Xiao'an, you have also recovered from your illness now. Have you made any plans for the future? Lou Xiao'e looked at Zhang An with some heartache. In my memory, his grades have always been very good. If he can continue studying, he will definitely be able to get into a good university in the future. But after the Zhang family's upheaval, Zhang An has never been to school again. How about her future choices? Lou Xiao'e still needs to ask him what he means. But Zhang An has long been tired of the boring life in his past life. He doesn't like reading, and he needs to be systematic. He will eventually achieve great success in the future. After some contemplation, he finally made up his mind. Sister-in-law, I want to take over my dad's class. Xiao'an, what do you mean? Are you going to work at the steel rolling mill? Zhang An's answer surprised Lou Xiao'e a bit. On the other hand, Zhang An looked at her with a firm expression and said, Sister-in-law, you don't have to worry about me. I have already considered it carefully. When I finish my household chores during this period, I will go to the steel rolling mill to report. Upon hearing Zhang An's resolute tone, Lou Xiao'e knew it was futile to say too much. Since it was Zhang An's choice, she respected his decision. The two chatted again, but the next second, the door was suddenly pushed open. Looking back, it turned out to be Yan Fugui. Xiao'an, hurry up and prepare. The staff meeting is about to take place. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Teasing Lou Xiao'e, each beast has its own plan. You are listening at novel full.audio. Yan Fugui stood at the door and gave a warning, and his gaze also turned to the dining table at Zhang An's house. Looking at the empty can of meat, his heart couldn't help but murmur. Eating so well. We need to find a way to win Zhang An's foster care right after the whole hospital meeting. In this way, in the future, my family can also enjoy delicious food. Got it, Uncle San. There's nothing else, please go back. Glancing at Yan Fugui's greedy gaze, Zhang An immediately guessed what he was thinking in his heart. If he goes to Yan Fugui's house for foster care, he may not even be able to eat white flour mantu in the future. Upon hearing Zhang An's expulsion order, Yan Fugui remained calm. He smiled at Zhang An and said, Xiao'an, remember to come over later. After speaking, he turned around and left. Inside, Lou Xiao'e's face was a bit anxious. Although she has always insisted that she is Zhang An's backing. But in this courtyard, almost all the animals have set their sights on Zhang An, this big fat meat. And this whole house meeting was the trap they set for Zhang An. To fight for his foster rights. Lou Xiao'e sighed and said, Xiao'an, remember to be clever when the whole courtyard meets later. These people in the courtyard are all staring at you. I'm not worried, let alone having a sister.In.Law with you. Even if I really want to choose, then I'll just stay at my sister.In.Law's house. Zhang An stared at Lou Xiao'e and smiled at her. Upon hearing these words, Lou Xiao'e's pretty face immediately turned red. Although Zhang An has always been regarded as a child on his lips, he is still at the age of 14 or 15. Such a handsome half-size guy. Blurting out these ambiguous words inevitably stirred ripples in Lou Xiao'e's heart. She pretended to be slightly angry and pushed Zhang An, then angrily said, "What are you talking about? Do you want to get there? If it really forces me to a dead end, sister.in.law, don't mind me. Just talk nonsense, hurry up and tidy up. We'll be going to the meeting soon." Lou Xiao'e smiled and poked Zhang An's head. This rather ambiguous conversation finally came to an end. At the same time, the animals in the courtyard are also making final preparations for the upcoming General Assembly. The deaf old lady sat at home, while Yi Zhonghai sat opposite her. The deaf old lady's face was full of cunning, and she sneered at Yi Zhonghai. Immediately after, a cold command came. "Lao Yi, today you must take down Zhang An. When he goes to your house for foster care, you will be much more comfortable in the future. Old lady, even if that kid is willing to come over." Yi Zhonghai shook his head. "Lao Yi, just think about it. As long as that kid is placed in foster care with you, won't the problem of elderly care be solved? Besides, I think he won't be able to read anymore. When he goes to work at the steel mill, you can still take some of him with you. This kid is not very old and has become an orphan again. As long as you treat him a little better, he will definitely miss you in the future." Yi Zhonghai was very moved by the deaf old lady's words. Although he had some excuses in the conversation just now. But in reality, Yi Zhonghai's heart is more eager than anyone to fight for Zhang An's foster care rights. He is an isolated household and has two options for retirement in his heart. One is Jia Dongxiu, and the other is Silly Zhu. But now that Jia Dongxiu has become paralyzed, he has naturally been removed from the retirement list. As for Silly Pillar, although on the surface, he has a good relationship with Yi Zhonghai. But Yi Zhonghai calculated that in case Silly Zhu got married, "I can't wait to expect him to help me retire. And Zhang An is currently the best candidate in the entire quadrangle. Being young is easy to control, and there is also a large amount of wealth at home. Whether it's winning Zhang An's heart or his possessions, Yi Zhonghai is earning with blood." Watching Yi Zhonghai nod, the deaf old lady's heart was filled with sneers. The reason why she is so helping Yi Zhonghai with advice is not because she really wants to find a retirement candidate for him. In the end, it is still calculation and the old memories of the Zhang family. The deaf old lady has been trying to find an opportunity to drive Zhang An out of the courtyard, so her past is safe. But now Zhang An is a big fat guy in the yard, so many eyes are staring at him. If you want to drive people away, you can only be wise. Yi Zhonghai is undoubtedly the best tool in the deaf old lady's plan. Yi Zhonghai's deaf old lady is the most familiar with her personality. As the first person to morally kidnap in the yard, he has always enjoyed controlling others the most. For example, Silly Pillar was tightly controlled by Yi Zhonghai in just a few words. And the deaf old lady noticed that Zhang An had changed as if he had been a different person since he recovered from his illness. She could tell from the provocation in the afternoon. Zhang An is definitely not someone that Yi Zhonghai can control. With Zhang An's personality, if he lived under the same roof as someone like Yi Zhonghai, contradictions accumulate day by day, and sooner or later they will fall out. And Yi Zhonghai wants face again, he will definitely kick Zhang An out because he can't bear it anymore. The deaf old lady's heart was filled with cold laughter. When Zhang An was driven out of the courtyard by Yi Zhonghai, her goal was also achieved. As for Yi Zhonghai's elderly care issue, there is still a foolish pillar. At that time, she will come forward and help Yi Zhonghai speak well. In the future, both she and Yi Zhonghai will make a steady profit without losing. Only that damn Zhang An ended up getting out of the yard. On the other hand, the other people in the courtyard also had their own plans in their hearts. After leaving the Zhang family, Yan Fugue hurried to his home to make the final preparations for the official start of the conference. Everyone in the Yan family sat together, listening to Yan Fugue's commands. Today's conference is very crucial. We must spare no effort to win Zhang An's foster care rights later. As long as this little ancestor is willing to live in our house, let's wait and live a delicious and spicy life in the future. Yan Fugui was calculating in his heart, and his expression was even more lively as he spoke. Upon hearing these words, Yan Jiqing immediately began to fantasize in his mind. He grinned and said, "Dad, can we eat meat once a month in the future?" Yuli glanced at Yan Jiqing speechlessly and thought to herself that you had only achieved such success. Once a month. It's almost the same as once a week. I just went to his house and saw that the Zhang family is eating canned meat tonight. Canned meat. That thing's not cheap. How much money did the Zhang family leave for this kid? Upon hearing Yan Fugui's words, Aunt Air immediately became energized. I estimate that at least 3,000 yuan is needed, right? Otherwise, this kid would dare to squander so much. He's buying 4 bedding beds and canned meat. Yan Fugui's eyes were full of calculations. And these beasts in the room were all mesmerized by these words. We must fight for Zhang An's foster care rights. This is a big bargain, we cannot give up on anyone. Jia family. Jia Zhang, Jia Dongxiu, and Qinhuai Ru had already packed everything up. Just waiting for the start of the entire conference. They have been planning for an entire afternoon to compete for Zhang An's foster care rights. Qinhuai Ru, remember to follow the plan later. I don't believe it anymore. Can that kid still resist our family's temptation? Don't worry, mother.in.law. When the broken gong in the yard rings, it will be our big stage. Qinhuai Ru had a proud expression on her face, as if Zhang An had already moved into the Jia family. And Jia Dongxiu couldn't conceal his excitement at this moment. His face was full of joy. No matter what the outcome is, we must have a good relationship with Zhang An. There are more wolves than meat, even if he doesn't come to our house, we will at least get a share of the pie. Everyone in the yard is now fully prepared and ready to go. Soon, with the sound of a broken gong and drum, the animals that heard the signal flocked in an instant. Everyone in the entire courtyard gathered together. They have different expressions, but their calculations in their hearts are all the same. First to Hanzhong, first to the king. Whoever can win Zhang An will make a fortune. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Qinhuai Ru is really capable, the duck that reaches its beak flies. You are listening at novel.Audio. Since everyone is here, let's start straight away. Yi Zhonghai sat in the middle of the crowd. Although he appeared calm on the surface, his heart was already filled with excitement. With the sound of the opening, the animals gathered in the yard were overwhelmed with excitement. One or two of them stopped playing and started their competition with clear cards. Zhang An stood silently in the crowd, staring coldly at the various divine abilities of the beasts. As the focal point of today, he is calm and unhurried. After all, he is the protagonist tonight, and he also wants to see what kind of pancakes the beasts will draw for him. The first person to send an invitation to Zhang An was the Jia family. Jia Zhang looked at Zhang An with a smile on her face, his gaze even closer than that of her own grandson. Xiao'an, I know you are a sensible child. After such a change in your family, I really can't bear to see you alone. If you are willing to come to my house, our family can guarantee that we will treat you even more intimately than our own flesh and blood. Moreover, your Qinhuai sister.in.law is capable and can take care of you more in her daily life. As long as you come to our house, you can wait to enjoy your happiness in the future. Jia Zhang has a big belly, and that's really beautiful. If it weren't for her exaggerated acting skills, those who didn't know would have thought that Zhang An had saved her life. Bongging was currently hiding behind Qinhuai Ru. Hearing what Jia Zhang said, I felt a bit jealous. Although Jia Zhang had strict demands on him today, to serve Zhang An like an ancestor. But how can one watch their grandmother and mother being snatched away by an outsider when they steal from a grand courtyard? Where one sleeps, how can others snore? Bang Ji quietly made a face at Zhang An. But I don't know about the stick meme. Zhang An had no interest in the large pancakes painted by Jia Zhang. But when he heard Jia Zhang's description of Qin Huairu, he still wilted and asked, is sister.in.law really capable or fake capable? Of course it's really capable. In the future, Bang Gum will call you brother, and Xiao Dang Huaihua will also call you brother. 3 younger brothers and sisters will be added in one go. What a beautiful thing. Jia Zhang did not hear the implied meaning of Zhang An. She spared no effort in writing empty promises to Zhang An. Only Qinhuai Ru second understood the playfulness in Zhang An's words. She looked at Zhang An's calm demeanor and felt a bit worried in her heart. I always feel like he's not easy to fall for. As expected, just as Jia Zhang continued to boast, Zhang An's gaze had already shifted to someone else. It seems that they have lost interest in the conditions of the Jia family. And in the long simmering bangs on the side, seeing Jia Zhang talking about the child, my heart suddenly became dissatisfied. Who doesn't have many children yet? Oh, by the way. Besides him, Yi Zhonghai. Lou Xiao'e hurriedly walked up to Zhang An and immediately said, Xiao'an, you come to our house. Guangfu and Guangqian are also good children. And since you are of similar age, living together can also have some common topics, right? Common topic. Zhang An felt a bit amused when she heard it. Just the intelligence of Lu Guangqian and Lu Guangfu, 2 lying dragon and phoenix chicks. I guess I can't even play with memes. Staying with these 2 smart people all day long, his brain is probably going to rust. Seeing Jia Zhang stand up in the bangs to steal words, Jia Zhang was immediately displeased. I had planned for the whole afternoon but was interrupted by him. If Zhang An's foster care rights cannot be won, who will be responsible for the nutrition losses suffered by their Jia family in the future? Jia Zhang is about to have a good conversation with Lou Xiao'e. But the beasts in the yard, seeing both of them throwing olive branches first, couldn't sit still. Among them, Yan Fugui's reaction was particularly fierce. He went all out to win over Zhang An. Xiao'an, you come to Uncle San's house. Uncle San's family is not short of children, and your sister.in.law Yu Li's hands and feet are not inferior to Qinhuai Ru's. Let her take care of you more. Moreover, my Jiedi is also about the same age as you. If you 2 like each other, why don't you just become my Yan family's son.in.law? With Yan Fugui's words, all the beasts present were instantly shocked by lightning. This old schemer, in order to win Zhang An's foster care rights, actually sold his own daughter. But just Yan Jiedi's appearance, silly pillars have to shake their heads when they see her. Although the beasts showed kindness to Zhang An out of calculation. But objectively speaking, can Yan Jiedi deserve Zhang An's condition? In the crowd, Yan Jiedi, hiding behind Li, blinked at Zhang An. Not to mention anything else, she is still very willing to marry Zhang An. She has also reached a naive age, and there lives a handsome young man like Zhang An in the yard. How could she not be bothered? Moreover, Zhang An's conditions are so good. Even if the 2 of them don't succeed in the end, the food in this family can still be improved, right? Glancing at Yan Jiedi's gaze, Zhang An almost vomited up all the dinner in his stomach. Xiao'an, why are you hesitating? Uncle San's family has already made the bed for you. You can just move in with your bag. Seeing Zhang An's expression somewhat complicated, Yan Fugui immediately added it. Yes, brother Zhang An, your bed is right next to my room. We can still talk quietly at night. Yan Jiedi blushed with embarrassment and put on a sentence as if not ashamed. Upon hearing these words, Zhang An couldn't hold back any longer. This Yan family is just a wolf's den, if I live in it myself. I estimate it will be a waste of both manpower and wealth. However, the beasts paid no attention to Zhang An's inner thoughts. After you finish singing, I will appear one by one. As the animals volunteered, they took turns sorting. Finally, only Yi Zhonghai was left to paint the cake. At this moment, Yi Zhonghai, who had been planning for a long time, exerted all his strength. The true protagonist is often the last to appear. And for this entire conference, these beasts can only serve as his mate for Yi Zhonghai. Next, it's all his own stage for Yi Zhonghai. Since everyone is so concerned about Xiao'en's foster care issue, then I, as the first uncle, must also express my opinion. As soon as the words fell, the yard suddenly fell silent. Yi Zhonghai is here. The first person in the quadrangle moral kidnapping is finally about to start his performance. Yi Zhonghai, who became the focus of the entire hospital, walked over to Zhang An with a smile. Immediately afterwards, he reached out and placed his hand on Zhang An's shoulder. In his expression, there was a loving and kind expression. Xiao'en, in terms of family conditions, Mr. Yi is definitely the top in the entire family. Although there are no children in my family, as long as you are willing to live in my house, I will definitely treat you as a married son in the future. You should know that if you go to someone else's house, you are still an outsider. Come to Grandpa Yi's place, you can be the only one. As soon as these words were spoken, all the animals in the courtyard immediately blushed. No one expected that Yi Zhonghai's words would directly kill all the conditions they had just offered. What if there are many children? Can you treat Zhang An as the only one? Yi Zhonghai can do it. As an old orphan in the yard, and also the one with the best conditions. This temptation is definitely not an empty promise. Jia Zhang, Lou Xiao'e, and Yan Fugue were gritting their teeth with their eyes. Halfway through, Yi Zhonghai made it difficult for them to perform. And the foolish pillar in the crowd was also very unhappy at this moment. It's not that he also wants to compete for Zhang An's foster care rights. Simply because he treats Yi Zhonghai as his own father. But just now Yi Zhonghai said that whenever Zhang An comes to his house, he will treat Zhang An as the only one. This makes silly Zhu very angry. Yi Zhonghai's gaze towards Zhang An became increasingly attentive. The silly pillar, who couldn't bear it, suddenly jumped out. My head heated up and I immediately started talking nonsense. Grandpa Yi, how can this kid compare to me? I see he's naturally rebellious. No matter how good you treat him, you must also be a white-eyed wolf. Silly Zhu, what are you saying? Stop talking now. Yi Zhonghai looked at the originally favorable situation and immediately took a sharp turn for the worse with the words of silly Zhu. His lungs are about to explode. But the beasts in the yard applauded and cheered. I thought Yi Zhonghai was determined to win. Can jump out of the way with a pig teammate like silly pillar. Now it's time to put a question mark on whether Zhang An will stay or not. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Moral Kidnapping of the Deaf Old Lady, Backhand 1. You are listening at novel.Audio. With the decline of Yi Zhonghai, the eyes of the beasts suddenly regained their luster. Everyone's gaze was fixed on silly Zhu, and they couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Silly pillar, you are simply a hero of the courtyard house. However, the praise for silly Zhu in everyone's hearts has not lasted for 3 seconds. Subsequently, the second round of competition for Zhang An's foster care rights began again. Xiao'en, don't listen to Grandpa Yi. If you go to his house, life won't be as good as he said. Come to our house, although it may not be the only one, I will definitely take care of you no less than my own children. If you come to my house, I will definitely do my best to take care of you. Watching the various expressions of the beasts, Zhang An, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up. I understand everyone's concern, and I think living alone is actually quite good. I can cook and also take care of household chores. And I have planned to report to the steel rolling mill in a few days. Besides, even if I don't go to your house for foster care, I still have my sister.In.Law to take care of me, right? As soon as she finished speaking, Lou Xiao'e quickly stepped forward to help. That's right, my Xiao'an is already a half-grown boy and will reach adulthood in a few years. There's no need to take him to your home for foster care. Lou Xiao'e, what are you saying? It's like we're trying to figure something out for him. Yes, although Xiao'an is a sensible child, she is still a minor. How can a person take care of themselves? With Lou Xiao'e's help, where can the beasts go as they please? As the ducks that reached their mouths were about to fly, everyone racked their brains and began to argue. Looking at the words, calculation, written all over the faces of these people, Lou Xiao'e was extremely angry. After all, aren't these people just concerned about the property of the Zhang family? You seem to care too much about Zhang An. She was planning to argue with these people again. But the next second, a hoarse voice that sounded as if it had been planned for a long time disrupted the noise at the scene. Everyone be quiet. I have something to say about Zhang An's foster care issue. As soon as the words fell, the dispute among the beasts came to an end. Countless eyes flickered and condensed at the location where the sound started. In the crowd, the deaf old lady walked slowly with a cane. Her complexion was good, looking as if she was ready to show off her skills. The disturbance caused by the deaf old lady caught the animals off guard. The conflict between her and the Zhang family has caused everyone in the yard to clear their doors. Who can believe that she also came to compete for Zhang An's foster care rights? However, all the beasts know that with the appearance of the Leifeng pagoda in the courtyard, the situation will be stirred up again into a puddle of muddy water. Next, let's see what the deaf old lady plans. No matter how Zhang An said it, he is still a child now. No matter how sensible he is, can he take good care of himself? So this foster care issue requires a choice, right? You all have so many children at home that you couldn't take care of them before. If there's another Zhang An at home, who can guarantee to take care of them properly? I think Lao Yi is good. He and Aunt Yi have no children and take care of nature wholeheartedly. And Zhang An just said that he is going to report to the steel rolling mill soon, and he can still learn from Lao Yi in the future. What a great opportunity. The deaf old lady leaned on a cane and outlined the script she had designed word by word. The beasts present were momentarily stunned. I thought the chaos caused by silly Zhu just now had already killed Yi Zhonghai. Unexpectedly, he even hid such a great trick as the deaf old lady. The deaf old lady and Yi Zhonghai are so bound that it is almost impossible for others to compete for foster care rights. Moreover, as the deaf old lady just said, Zhang An is about to report to the steel rolling mill, and Yi Zhonghai is an 8th level fitter. Being able to learn from such an 8th level fitter has directly paved the way for future career paths. Zhang An is still young, and under the guidance of Yi Zhonghai, he may be able to work as a level 4 fitter at the age of 20. My monthly income will not be low in the future. In the face of such a huge temptation, even some children of the same age as Zhang An in the yard want to be fostered at Yi Zhonghai's house. The old lady is right, Xiao'an. That's our decision. Mr. Yi will help you make the bed right away, and I will teach you some tips for fitters tonight. Yi Zhonghai smiled and immediately began planning for Zhang An. But how could he accommodate the deaf old lady's wishes? Not to mention this kind of calculation with obvious purpose. Zhang An raised his hand and directly interrupted Yi Zhonghai's words. He raised his eyebrows lightly and coldly glanced at the deaf old lady. Immediately, a cold snort came from me. My grandmother once said that men should strive for self-improvement and learn to be independent. You were right, but if it weren't for Grandpa 1, wouldn't I be able to live anymore? Just thinking about relying on others, you can't achieve great success in your lifetime. Don't think of me like you, selfish and without conscience. As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of the group present at Zhang An suddenly changed. In the face of such a huge temptation, how could a 14-year-old child refuse without even thinking about it? Zhang An's composure and character are simply explosive for both Zhonghai and the deaf old lady. However, animals are also restless masters. Since they can't get it, how can you, Zhonghai, and the deaf old lady, grab it? Besides, Zhang An's words were all about this, and there was a hint of disgust both inside and outside the words. Since we can't snatch the two of you, we'll have to resort to falling into the trap. Old lady, I think Xiao'an is right. He is not young anymore, and in a few years he will become an adult. Can't a young man and a half take care of himself? Don't worry about eating carrots salty. Old lady, I think you should stop mentioning this bad idea. It's like Xiao'an can't live without Grandpa Yi. That's right, it's not good for Xiao'an to take care of Grandpa Yi's family. Is it possible that if he doesn't worship Grandpa Yi as his teacher, he can't survive in the steel rolling mill? I think let's not make things difficult for Xiao'an anymore. If someone is willing to live it on their own, they can live it on their own. If Xiao'an is willing in the future, come to my house to eat. That's right, since there are so many people in our courtyard, do we have to let Xiao'an take care of one of them? Xiao'an, listen to uncle, as long as you are willing, my door will always be open for you. The words of the beasts shifted from blaming the deaf old lady to wooing Zhang An. Since he cannot be placed in foster care, let's establish a good relationship. Anyway, everyone's goal is the same. If we can establish a good relationship with him, we can naturally gain some advantages. However, the deaf old lady was infuriated by the rebound of these beasts. I didn't expect this group of people to be just some wall grass. Speaking of moral kidnapping, one is stronger than the other. Her seamless rhetoric, which she thought she had designed, was just shattered. If we can't take this opportunity to play the long term, it will be difficult to drive Zhang An out of the courtyard in the future. The deaf old lady gritted her teeth as she watched the beasts pay attention to Zhang An. She angrily smashed her cane and immediately cursed at Zhang An, I don't understand good people. You live alone, just wait to go hungry and cold. Zhang An looked coldly at the deaf old lady who was infuriated and broke her guard. He let out a cold smile in his heart. Without thinking about it, I opened the system space and took out a recently acquired unlucky talisman. The report letter has been submitted. Your deaf old lady hasn't been bouncing around for a few days. Now you're in such a hurry to jump, it's all up to you. Holding an unlucky talisman, Zhang An selected the deaf old lady as the target and silently recited a spell. A burst of black smoke rushed into the deaf old lady's body, shouting and cursing incessantly. The deaf old lady here is still mocking Zhang An, saying, just you, a spendthrift, will have to lose all your property in less than a month. Look at who these people will still flatter you when the time comes. The deaf old lady was filled with anger. But she didn't realize that she was going to have bad luck soon. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Deaf old lady falls into a dog, Zhang An's new body. You are listening at novel full.audio. Without your care, the days ahead will depend on you, a 14-year-old ghost. Humph. It's hard to move a single step. The deaf old lady smashed her cane with a threatening tone in her words. On the other hand, Zhang An stood calmly in place, staring at the deaf old lady with unwavering determination. My mouth was almost dry, but I couldn't see any movement from Zhang An. Seeing him so inexperienced, the deaf old lady couldn't hold her back. Don't listen to good advice. If you encounter trouble, don't try to ask for help. The deaf old lady put down a harsh sentence and prepared to apologize for her loss of composure. After speaking, she quickly turned around and planned to leave. But when she just took a step, the next second, the soles of the deaf old lady's feet felt like they were smeared with oil. Suddenly losing his center of gravity, he fell off guard towards the ground. The gaze of the beasts was already fixed on her alone. Seeing the old lady about to leave, an accident happened. They watched the excitement one by one and didn't mind the big deal, and suddenly they all came to their senses. "Oh my legs!" A scream echoed throughout the entire courtyard. The deaf old lady slammed to the ground with a thud, her expression instantly becoming ferocious. She arched her body and looked like a freshly cooked shrimp. Everyone looked at the deafness of the old lady and exclaimed, "It's just right. Old lady, why don't you teach Xiao'an a lesson? Are you okay now? You fell off your own and chewed on the mud. At an old age, if you insist on showing your face, it's better for you to stay out of the affairs of young people. That's right, you don't expect to foster Xiao'an. Why do you have to come over and join in the fun? Did you fall now?" The beasts were constantly mocking the deaf old lady. The deaf old lady is deafening. And Zhang An also sneered repeatedly in his heart, secretly cursing the deaf old lady for her immorality. "Everyone, please speak a few words less." The old lady said this also for the sake of Zhang An's safety. "Don't fall into trouble here." Zhonghai saw that stealing a chicken was not enough to erode the rice, and he couldn't calculate on Zhang An. Instead, he even threw the deaf old lady in. So he quickly stood up and stopped the discussion among the beasts. Immediately after, he gave an order to Silly Zhu, quickly carry the old lady back and don't hurt her feet again. Damn it! Upon hearing Zhonghai's command, Silly Zhu was like a hungry dog seeing flesh and bones. He ran to the side of the deaf old lady with a thud. Before memorizing the deaf old lady, Silly Zhu didn't forget to boast a few words in front of Zhonghai. "Grandpa take a look, it's still me who listens to you foolishly. You still have to consider foster care, don't you? Silly Zhu, hurry up and send the old lady back. We'll talk about the rest later." Seeing Silly Zhu tripping himself up again, Zhonghai frowned. The deaf old lady's incident has already made a mess of the current situation. After finally seeing off this great deity, my pig teammate, Silly Zhu, was in a hurry to give away his head. After being repeatedly mentioned by him, Zhang An, let alone being placed in foster care at his home, is likely to have a strained relationship between both parties. It wasn't until Silly Zhu's back disappeared that Zhonghai breathed a slight sigh of relief. "Alright, let's call it a day for this conference. It's getting late, everyone go back and rest early." With a clap of his hands, Zhonghai finally came to an end to this farce. Although there were no horns to drive out the winners today, Zhang An, as a trophy, still remembered by the beasts. As soon as Zhonghai announced the end of the meeting, he was the first to run to Zhang An. "Xiao'an, don't listen to Silly Zhu's nonsense. In the eyes of Mr. 1, you are a sensible and good child. As long as you are willing, my family welcomes you at any time. I understand Mr. Yi's kindness, it's getting late, I have to go rest too. Okay, Xiao'an, slow down on the road in the dark." Zhonghai warmly waved his hand towards Zhang An. The calculation in Zhang An's heart remains unchanged. 14 or 5 years old is exactly the age of being sensible. Zhonghai believes that as long as he has a good relationship with Zhang An and works unconsciously, he will be willing to retire for himself. Anyway, he has money in Zhonghai and is not short of the Zhang family's small fortune. But the other people in the courtyard are not as simple as Zhonghai's calculations. Jia Zhang had a stern face and a pair of eyes as if they had grown on Zhang An. Her heart kept repeating the scene of Zhang An rejecting her just now. Jia Zhangshi licked her tongue and said, "I don't know how good people are. Without the protection of adults, I think you'll just wait to suffer from hunger and cold in the future, kid. Grandma, regarding foster care, I think we should consider it in the long run. Anyway, no one has won Zhang An's foster care rights now, so we still have a chance." Qin Huairu had a long-term vision and saw that Jia Zhang was getting angry, so she quickly stepped forward to persuade him. It makes sense, isn't that kid going to report to the steel rolling mill soon? You need to have more contact with him in the future. Jia Zhang's gaze changed and he immediately changed his strategy, starting a new calculation. After hearing this, Qin Huairu nodded with a smile and said, "Don't worry, when he comes to the steel rolling mill, there will be plenty of opportunities to win him over." And on the other side of the bangs. As soon as Zhang An left, he immediately called for Lu Guangtian and Lu Guangfu. He still used his usual commanding tone to demand from his two sons, "You two should have more contact with Zhang An in the future and strive to make friends with him. That kid is rich, and if you follow him in the future, you can not only eat and drink spicy food every day, but maybe even deceive some money." "Dad, we can't even play with that Zhang An at all. His grades are so good that it's difficult for both of us to pass the exam. Where do we have a common topic?" Lu Guangtian and Lu Guangfu's faces were somewhat puzzled. "But where do you care so much about bangs?" He slapped and gave his two sons a hearty reward. "Stop talking nonsense, you are all peers and can't find a common topic to talk about. I used to make you two study hard, but now I want you two to make friends and find so many excuses for me. There's more to success than failure." The two brothers dare not agree with Lu Haizhong's words. After all, Lu Haizhong believes in the good advice of filial piety under the stick, and the two brothers dare not ignore it. "I'm afraid that after going back, there will be another round of belt service, so I can only grit my head and nod." As for Yan Fugue, as soon as he got home, he quickly convened another family meeting. During the banquet, Yan Fugue ordered the whole family to maintain a good relationship with Zhang An. Especially for Yuli, she usually has the most leisurely days, and now it's time for her to contribute to this family. If you have time on weekdays, you must go and help Zhang An more. Yuli was somewhat speechless. Xin said that this family was willing to sacrifice such a large sum of money to calculate the wealth of the Zhang family. But she can't refuse either, after all, this family is all vampires. If she doesn't agree, she probably won't be able to eat anything in the future. At Zhang An's home, he and Lou Xiao'e were sitting hand in hand, facing each other on the edge of the Kong. Lou Xiao'e's face was filled with anger. The deaf old lady's moral kidnapping today made her very unhappy. This deaf old lady is not a good person either. She has been helping Mr. E talk all along just now. I think she must have agreed with him. She is already in her 70s and 80s, and doesn't know how to accumulate some virtue on her mouth. Shameless. In front of Zhang An, Lou Xiao'e repeatedly complained about the deaf old lady. Seeing her indignant appearance, Zhang An also decided to truthfully reveal the true face of the deaf old lady. "Sister-in-law, do you still remember those words my grandmother said before? Are you talking about the identity of a deaf old lady?" Zhang An nodded and said, "That's right, sister.in.law. You don't know that this deaf old lady is not a heroic family at all. She used to be the aunt of a big boss in Coal City. She had done a lot of activities to trap the soldiers of the Dragon Kingdom in the past, but later fled to 49 cities. If it weren't for no way to verify, she wouldn't have been whitewashed into a 5 guarantees household. Xiao'an, just keep these words hidden in your heart. If she hears them, she will definitely come to trouble you again. It's better for us to do less than to do more." Lou Xiao'e looked at Zhang An with some concern and gave him a warning. "Xiao'an, it's getting late too. You should rest early and my sister.in.law will go back first. Good night, sister.in.law. Good night." After Lou Xiao'e left, Zhang An closed the door. "Everything that happened today is still vivid in my memory. Especially the calculating face of the deaf old lady, just thinking about it made Zhang An feel nauseous. Moreover, today we got into this mess, and the relationship between the two in this courtyard is already strained. Old lady, you're taking your own dead end." After speaking, Zhang An casually opened the system space and took out the 2 identity cards he had obtained this morning. Left hand red card, right hand blue card. Zhang An pondered in his heart, and the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Immediately, he crushed one of them. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.